In this session, we will be talking about the different ways in which I can assign the variables in R. So I need to talk about creating a new variable. What is the process for creating a variable and assigning a value to the variable? Why do I need a variable? Yeah, I have been doing a lot of computations and calculations in R, but I need to store those calculations somewhere. And that storage I want to reuse at a later point in time, and that is one of the prime reasons I will talk about creating a variable and assigning values to a particular variable. So more of storage locations, right? And here we talk about two kinds of variables. One is called as local variables, the other one is global. Local is only for this specific application, whereas global is I'm creating a variable which is available anywhere. So those are called as global variables. Only in the current context, if a variable's life is existing, then we are creating it as a local variable. And the way we create them is, the more common one is a less than with a hyphen, though I can use equal to as a symbol to allot. So these two are the mechanisms of allotting a variable, local variable. Whereas if I am talking about double less than with a hyphen, this is the way we create a global variable. So depending on what kind of variable I am creating, I can do the assignment like this. Again, I can assign a vector as well. Let's say if I am simply saying x, right? If I am simply saying x, I am allotting a value 6 to 10. And similarly, y, I am allotting a value 11 to 15. Right? So which means x is given the value 6 to 10, y is given the value 11 to 15. So they are stored. If I want to see what is x, simply type x. So it gives you 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Simply type y. It gives you 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now you can do even some functions like mean x. Oh, it is doing the mean. Or probably you can say x plus 5 multiplied by y minus 3. It does a pairwise multiplication as well. Right? X plus 5, 6 plus 5 multiplied by 11 minus, oh, it is coming out as x plus 5y minus 3. If I don't put a bracket, this is getting interpreted as x plus 5y minus 3. So it is coming out as 6 plus 5y is 55. 6 plus 55 is 61 minus 3. That's how it's giving me 58. Otherwise, I can say x plus 5 multiplied by y minus 3. So it does, okay, x is incremented by 5, y is decremented by 3, and again there is a pairwise multiplication. So that is one advantage. We are going with x and y or the variable allotment. But here, probably if you know some other programming language, I did not declare the type of x and y. Right? Generally, in other programming languages, I talk about, okay, x is an integer or y is an integer. Some kind of a declaration will happen before assignment of the values. But in R, we don't need to declare, and we don't have such kind of preference also. We don't have such kind of feature or concept in R. And coming to the names that you can give to any of these variables, you can go with letters. Within the name, I can have letters, I can have numbers, I can have dot, I can have underscore, all these. But remember, the name of the variable cannot start with a number or a dot followed by a number, because even that would look like a decimal number. So it can't start with any of them, and it can't use some of the reserved keywords. There is if, for, some of the keywords are very much reserved for various activities within R. I cannot use any of those as a part of my variable name. Similarly, there are a few things like true, false, capitals, all capitals. They are all reserved. Probably I could have used the true in all smalls, or probably a mixed case. These are all available. Only these two are not available. These are all reserved. Now the best way to really make out which ones are typically allowed is you simply use the function called make.names. This gives a beautiful help with a question mark on what all are allowed as well as what all are not allowed. Use make.names. You are getting a very clear indication, right? The different kinds of names, allowed, not allowed kind of stuff. So that's one more piece of information that you can really look at. And then, apart from using the operators like this or this, I can even use a function called assign to do the assignment, right? Now, this is also possible, but probably what I have seen is it is very less commonly used. It's very rarely used because it clutters your code, right? But if at all I have to use, the way I use is the same assign. I'll define a variable called z, and to this particular variable z, I can allot, let's say, the values, let's say the vector 1 to 5. So that's how I do, and probably if I want to know what is the composition of z, I can simply type in z, which will give me the value. And now if I have to define a global variable, right, I can say assign z, or probably let me call it p, some other variable, right, and here let's call it c 5, 34, 6, 36, or 368, etc. But if I have to call it global, I have to use another additional word called global environment. We'll talk about this global environment sometime later. But if I have to define it as a global variable using the assign function, otherwise I could have done it using the double equal to or double less than with a hyphen. But otherwise, if I have to use the assign function, this is the way I have to. Here it does not make any difference. But I'll talk about where it makes a difference at a slightly later point. This is the way of assigning global, and this is the way of assigning a local variable. And as a good practice, I still suggest not to use the assign function. If you are really doing the assignment, probably this is the one that goes well for local, and this is the one that goes well for global. Because even this assign, just a moment earlier I said that the variable names can't start with the dot, or they can't start with a number. But this kind of a mechanism does not even check for that. So that's one of the prime reasons, or probably for various reasons, and even my code looks more and more cluttered. So that's one of the prime reasons I don't use the assign as a function to assign the value to a variable. So if I have to really see what is the value, we have seen initially when I have assigned it, I have simply assigned it like this. It does not show me what are the values. Only when I type in the name of the variable, I'll get the values that are assigned to it. Now this is where we can talk about if I want both in the same go. Like I want to assign, right, probably to a variable called Vamsi, I want to assign A, B, C, D, E, right? A string characters A, B, C I want to assign, and at the same time I want those to be printed as well. Now this is where there are three ways of doing it. One, okay, I'll assign to a variable called Vamsi an array of variables or a vector of values A, B and C. I'm assigning these to Vamsi. But at the same time, I want to print Vamsi. So that is where I separate with a colon, a semicolon, and write the name of the variable. So then in one single shot, I am able to assign the variable as well as display it. Similarly, there is one more mechanism. If I am doing the same assignment, put it in brackets. So if I start Vamsi, assign C values A, X, Y. So if I am giving some such kind of values and I am closing the bracket, still this is one more way. Either I first assign the variable values to the variable and then put a semicolon and then type the name of the variable, that will print them, or the variable assignment enclose it in brackets, that will also do the printing. Here I just wanted to introduce a few more functions. Generating random numbers, right? I want to introduce a couple of more functions so that it just for different exercises we can talk about using different such kind of functions. If I have to generate a random numbers following a normal distribution, I use rnorm, right? I use rnorm where this is coming out from a normal distribution, a random number that is coming out from a normal distribution. Similarly, if I am using RL norm, it is coming out from a log normal distribution. Let's try out. I'm using a variable called ABC. I am assigning to it rnorm 3, and at the same time I want to print it. What I could see here, three random variables, random normal variables from the normal distribution are being generated and displayed. Probably I can repeat the process, and we know because it's random, the repeated process are going to generate different kinds of values for me following a standard normal random distribution. Similarly, if I'm talking about CBA as another variable, right, this time I'll use the bracket process CBA. I'm assigning RL norm, right, the random log normal variable, and if I am asking it to print, it is doing the printing from a log normal distribution. The three values are pulled out randomly from a log normal distribution and are typically printed. So we can very well use the assignment of a variable as one interesting aspect that helps us to do a temporary storage when I am doing a local variable, or it can do a permanent storage and help me to use the value anywhere, anytime when I am defining it as a global variable. So another important usage if I have to go further in terms of understanding R, right?